So, a very good morning to all. My name is Architect Tushar Mandal, and on behalf of the Peria School of Architecture, I welcome you all to the 27th webinar in the Every Friday webinar series, a platform for young minds to express their ideas. Today's webinar will be discussing a collaborative approach to architecture and will be presented by architect Swayam Swastik. So, to introduce the speaker for today, Swayam is an architect with an interest in small, spatial, and product-based experimentations in architecture. He runs a symbiotic practice, iCandle, to cater to large-scale explorations through collaboration with different artists, architects, and engineers. He holds a bachelor's degree from CET Bhubaneswar and is also an art graduate from Lalit Kala Academy. So today, as I mentioned, he will be presenting or discussing a collaborative approach to both architecture and design. And I request Swayam to now begin with his presentation. It's also a request to all the participants to kindly keep themselves muted for the duration of the presentation. Once the presentation is over, we will have a question, answer, and discussion round where you can ask all your questions. Thank you. Swayam, you can now begin with the presentation.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Am I audible to everyone? I just wanted to...
Yes, you're audible. You're audible.
Okay. All right. So let's get started. Now, when I got the call from Periyar about explaining about this kind of a practice, I was really interested to share it with students. So the name is Collaborative Architecture, Collaborative Approach in Architecture. Let's begin it now. The points we'll be discussing today are collaboration, architects collaborate with which kind of people, examples of collaboration, factors affecting collaboration, types of collaborations, points for healthy collaborations, problems you might face in collaborating with people, benefits of it, and my own collaborations with other people, and then how collaboration acts as a tool for young architects. Now, what is collaboration? So collaboration is basically a process in which two or more people or organization working together to complete a task or achieve a goal. Now, this has a lot of variations to it. So people might have the like mindsets. They might have different mindsets altogether, but they might come together to make a product. So there are consequences for both. You might get a really good product. You might end up with some kind of a problem. But yeah, ultimately completing the task is the thing. Now, collaboration has always contributed to this world in some other way. And though more and more ideas merge in, they develop much more and they give out a really good result. So for some examples, if you see James Watson and Francis Crick, they actually gave us the first model of DNA due to their shared interest into biotechnology. Similarly, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, they were the part of the Beatles, but as individual artists, they shared the vision to bring music to everyone's hands. And this became a very casual instrument that is now almost everywhere as a brand symbol for being cool. That's a guitar. Larry Page and Sergey Brin, as you all know, they are the founders of the company that brought internet to your hand, that is Alphabet, which made Google. Ben Cohen and Jerry Greenfield. Well, with a lot of experimentation and all, maybe by accident, but they got something that we all enjoy after an afternoon meal or maybe after dinner, an ice cream. Now, as architects, in every project, we need to collaborate with certain kind of engineers, certain sculptors to actually complete one simple task, okay, making a build space. So architects generally tend to collaborate with architects. They collaborate with engineers. But for special projects or maybe for special requirements, we also collaborate with artists. And it's just like getting back to your roots. Here in the diagram, if you see, there is a triangle that goes as a larger base on the top and a small point at the bottom. So these are the art. So that is like a graph of our frequency of meeting up with these people. So from sculptor to musician, our frequency of conversation with these people go in there on this scale in the industry. As I said earlier, the architects and artists, whenever we collaborate, okay, it's just like getting back to your roots again. Because when architecture came as a field of study, it started from all the art schools. Let's get on some examples now. There is a conference center and a concert hall in the Iceland. Okay. Now, Olafur Eliasson is an artist from Iceland itself. This was a structure which was developed by them, and the facade was developed in such a way that there were 12-sided polyhedrals known as Kasi bricks. The opacity and the colors change when the sun's direction is changing and the sky's colors are changing. Well, here the architect and the artist have their own paths. Like architects took the whole functional thing of planning and everything, and the skin, for the whole skin, they collaborated with Olafur for making this 12-sided tetrahedral facade possible. Now, collaboration is a word here. I just want to broaden it more. So whenever these kind of commissions come for architects, so whenever these kind of commissions come for architects, they generally tend to link one of the artists with the client, and the client hires them. This keeps them in the same level. Here, the architect is not hiring an artist, but the architect and the artist are working on the same level. They're collaborating. They're sharing the responsibility. That is why the word collaboration is being used. It is the same thing for even the upcoming examples. The Norwegian National Opera and Ballet. This is like a public art interest thing for which many sculptors and many textile designers came. And if you see the whole form, it is like it is emerging out from the waterfront. This was developed by the sculptors Jorunn Sannes Caligard and Christian Ballard. In this one, they used differently cut stones of Karan stone, and they used it for that white blending, for the white blending structure. The photo that you see on your right are actually made out of textile. They're designed in such a way that the only shinier regions are metal parts. The other flexible thing that you're seeing are totally made out of fabric. Arc Nova, one of the great installations of Anish Kapoor. This was made just after 2 years of 2009's devastating 9 Richter scale cyclone and earthquake that was there in Japan. He collaborated with the architect Arata Isozaki. They made this installation in such a way that it could act as a concert hall or for an auditorium where people come. If you see, the collaboration was such that the lines of architecture and art are quite blurred. It's a quite huge scale of installation that they have done. For this, I wanted to put a description because mostly students will be really interested to see this. This is the dynamic sculpture that is there, and it is actually a collaboration between the principals, an architecture firm, and a collaboration with Dev Highness, or known as Blood Orange, a musician. This thing was made out of 6,000 pieces of silver-coated millar, gilded together, driven by a series of really high-powered motors. And you must see the video of this thing. So kindly note this one. Now, whenever we say collaborations, we generally tend to merge our ideas, discuss upon the ideas. But are ideas the only factors of collaboration? Well, maybe not. Maybe there are even more things that affect or that matter in collaborations. Let's look at them. These are a few factors that actually play a vital role during collaborations. People come from different backgrounds, different cultures, different values. So they have different processes. The role they have in the society is quite different. The role they have in their profession is quite different. Or maybe the stand they're taking in their profession is quite different. So the identity differs. The kind of place they come from, the kind of way they are brought up, that molds their culture, that molds their values. The way they have taken the journey of their life adds up to their different experiences, which might be really different from you. Okay. At last, in every collaboration, though we are working mostly for, earning, so an economics understanding has to be there. If the economic understanding is being a problem, it will actually hamper the project. So there are two types of collaborations if you see. One is really unhealthy kind and the other one is a healthy one. Now, what are the factors that actually determine these things? Well, it's just a perspective. Okay. As the previous factors I was running you through, those things mold your perspective, and every person has a different kind of perspective. But how it affects any collaboration, let's see. If people have very, very different perspectives, then they're never going to meet at one point. If they're never going to meet at one point, then decision making is going to be a problem that will be a botch for the project. Sometimes people share almost the same perspective and they don't have arguments. Well, it feels really right, but where is the creative, where is the constructive criticism here? How are they discussing? How is the quality assured, right? So it is always better to have collaborations with people who share your mindset, but also have their own perspectives, so that you meet at point. There are criticism sessions, there are discussions due to which qualitative work is achieved. So there are a few things you need to keep in mind to maintain a healthy collaboration. It is just like any relationship you're building with the other person. So some points are that you have to be really flexible for your inputs. Okay, you have to give them space so that they could give their ideas. You guys need to understand your roles in that collaboration. It shouldn't be that you are overpowering them or something, or they are overpowering you. You have to work on in a synchronization. You need to understand what are your timelines, what are their timelines, what are their other works also, so that you manage the timelines right and work in a synchronization so the project flow is always right. Any kind of issues that you have with the other person or the other person is having with you, you guys need to resolve it as soon as possible, because in that way the project stays unhampered. One more thing is that never compete with the person you're collaborating with. Always work together. You guys have to be a unit, and you guys do not have to be different people, and you don't have to show that you are better than them or they have to show they are better than you. That's a very important point. First, I'll just show you the bitter parts of collaboration, and then we'll look at the sweet part. The bitter part of collaboration is sometimes you'll have mismatched ideas, though the discussions will run through a lot, so achievement of timelines becomes a problem sometimes. Information exchange, because sometimes you'll have like one point contact issues. Like supposedly you are not the one point contact, the other person is also not the one point contact. The client tends to contact you both, and what happens is that maybe you have forgotten to pass on some information to them. So whenever you are on site or in a project, you are misinformed, or you have a lack of information. That also creates a problem. If there is not much understanding between you and your collaborating partner, the blame game could come upon. Opinions and processes are obviously different, but staying rigid on it will create a problem again. Decision making takes time, but this is a good thing also, that decision making sometimes also becomes easier. So this is also a good, this is also a bad point. Financial splits. Suppose if the person you're collaborating with is not working as much as you are, so and financial split is say 50-50%, then this might create issue to your mental health. Well, benefits. So responsibilities are shared. You explore a lot of ideas that keeps the quality right. There is constructive criticism. So quality is always assured. There are discussed decision, there are filtered decision due to constructive criticism. So quality of work is always achieved. Though you have a team now, or you have more people to work upon, the quantitative part of the work is also achieved. What do we mean by displacement flexibility is that if for some other project you have to get out of the place, then the other person is there to take up the responsibility. And though you have a quantity now and you have filtered decisions, the efficiency also increases in a project. I have been collaborating with people since the beginning of my practice, and it is not just for art. I'll be putting here the examples of my architectural practice mostly that I have started recently here, and previously I was doing a job for past 3 years in C&D Architects. So I'll just show my collaborations of past 9 months. There's a quote that has always driven me that great things in business are never done by one person. They're always done by a team of people. This was my first project in Bhubaneswar. At this time, I was at my job and I was making this thing for execution, Artem Design Studio was helping me out. This is a store that is based for experimentation of rolls. So all of the inspiration was coming from roll and the spill of sausage. So the plan was pragmatically set, and then spills were arranged in such a thing that such a way that the things don't overpower the space a lot. Okay. The lamps were designed to imitate the wrapping shapes of the rolls. And for this, mostly we collaborated with Artem as a art studio for developing these kind of shapes through fiber as a material. These are a few overviews of the place. This is already constructed and running right now. For the exterior section, this used to be a dump yard for the resort. I mean, this thing is actually situated in a resort itself. So this used to be the dump yard of the resort. The person wanted me to develop it as quick as possible before the 15 days of opening. So we developed this false ceiling and developed this spill shaped lightings, which were again for this, I collaborated with Artem again, and they helped me out in executing this part. This is an interesting project. Ma Mangala Basti. Basti in Odia means slum. And this is mostly an art project. I collaborated with these two parties. One is IBI and Dibyushman Jena, also known as Yantra Purush. IBI being Intelligence in Building Infrastructures. This is a Canada-based company that works in Bhubaneswar for its smart city development project. Dibyushman Jena is one of the more well-known muralists of Odisha. IBI actually got this project and they wanted both of us to collaborate with them for generating the artworks for the branding of this space. So the Basti had a social hub. In Odisha, every Basti has a social hub for themselves. And these social hubs were needed to be branded. This being a part of a national competition in which more than 175 Bastis were given to different groups of urban design of the government agencies in different states. We also participated with IBI in this competition. The slum was mostly having the residents who had the profession as stitching. The self-help group that resided there was based upon stitching. And we wanted to brand that thing. So we came up with simple illustrations that could do that. There are a few glimpses of that. Now, being in Hyderabad and executing personal projects in Bhubaneswar was a bit tricky. So but still, we managed to participate in a competition that was of 120 battalion. They wanted a healthcare unit lobby for themselves. It's in Bhubaneswar itself. So I collaborated with two of my friends who have their firm in Bhubaneswar because they needed 3 options and we had just 1 week. So a collaboration was necessary here because the timeline was really short. We came up with these 3 options in 1 week. So you can see how productive it became, because for one person coming up with 3 options was a bit tricky. Here what happened, we all had our individual ideas, but we discussed for almost like 1 to 2 days based on sketches and Zoom calls to understand what should be our next move and how can we develop it more and more further. Once the discussions were done and all the ideas were set in place, we all worked upon our individual ideas for 2 to 3 days. And then we again discussed upon the things, reviewed it continuously to get these results. This is the first option. This is the second option. Second option was mostly based upon their brief. Their brief was that they wanted something Islamic and royal. So we just wanted to show them that, yeah, this is what it could look like. But we were not very happy with this option. This was conceptualized based upon sanitation and different kind of auditory and lux level balances for the comfort levels of the patients. The next thing, this is after I have come to Bhubaneswar, we collaborated to cater a large scale project. This is a competition that we won in January. This is Sage of Will. It's a 3-acre complex with 32 premium villas in it. A 3-acre of property, and working for this competition in just 1.5 weeks. Well, it was a trouble also, and for that we collaborated and we won the competition. There are a few glimpses of that place that we designed. The story of collaborations again continued. One of my seniors run a practice in Bhubaneswar for past 10 years. It's called Cityscape Architects. And after seeing one of the restaurants, that is the roll store, he wanted to collaborate with me on this restaurant. This is known as Momo Way. This is a franchisee that comes from Nepal. This is their second international store and the first one in India. So they want the previous design language that they had in Nepal, they were not very happy with it. So they wanted us to generate a design language for them. Now, this is what we came up with. And when we came up with they had a norm of using duct for ventilations. But a duct in a restaurant, it started looking like an alien to us. So we tried to mold it as a dragon using fiber again as a material. In the further parts, we came to know that the budget was going really overboard because the duct itself would have costed us around 9 lakhs, which was 4 lakhs above the budget of people. But these people, somehow they were very interested in keeping the dragon. So for this, again, we collaborated with another artist group, which is helping us in developing this dragon now. These are the parts of the dragon. This is in the process. Within 15 days, this project is going to get completed. Here the artist Rahul and his team are working upon the scales and patterns of the dragon. We wanted it to look like, it's a Momo inspired dragon. So it has to have its own scales. The folds have to be right. They have to look like wontons from far off. It has to be white in color to depict momos. Once it is completed, I might share the pic with Tushar and you guys can take a look. This was the exterior section of it. Now, being a graphic designer myself, I always feel that, any painting, any graphic should be very specific to that project. And they shouldn't be just bought and put down. It should be designed for the project. So here we again collaborated with a painter, architect Soumya Nanda. She happens to be an architect and also she runs her own art practice. Here we studied the history of momos and how it started as a provincial food from Tibet and from Kathmandu in Nepal. Both the momos are quite different, and how they have traveled from the northeast regions to India. We are making a collection of 8 paintings that will be depicting this movement from the Tibet and Nepal towards India. Again, a large scale project for which the time was just 5 days to complete the competition design. Here were 5 people, 2 from Cityscape and 2 from Candle, and 1 from Biva's group itself. We collaborated over this and made a design for this competition. This is mostly a marine life based hotel and retail space. To cater this large scale, the collaboration worked really well. These are the sky deck spaces in that hotel. We just won the part A of the competition and we are into the financial part. This is the part B of the competition now. This is the most special project and maybe the last project in this series that I'll be showing. This is my first collaboration actually when I came to Odisha from my job. This is called as More Mitti. Now, More Mitti was not just a project, it was like a movement for Simdega. Simdega is maybe a name that you guys have not even heard of. Simdega is an aspiring district in the state of Jharkhand. It's situated in the border of Odisha and Jharkhand. There is an aspiring district in which people are still starving. People are not getting jobs, are not much skilled, but the nearby villages have a few skilled bamboo artisans, have skilled potters, but well, they don't have much of exposure towards built environment. So when More Mitti as an organization, they came to me, they wanted a structural intervention to promote their culture of bamboo, to promote their culture of tribal food and hospitality. So this project emerged out, and they also wanted to generate employment in that place. That is the reason I'm saying that this is not just a project, it was a movement that was started now. This employs around more than 60 people. For this project, I had to stay in that village for 3 months, understand their lifestyle, have food with them, stay with them, understand their own language, understand how it will be really easy for them to understand what I am communicating. After 3 months of staying there and designing this with them, we started off the process. So all the engineering and everything was done by me and another engineer from Simdega itself. We taught them how to make trusses. People, they were really skilled in understanding bamboo as a handicraft thing, but though they were having a less exposure towards the built environment, but so the collaboration and the knowledge sharing happened really well. Like they taught us how to choose the right bamboo, how to taste a bamboo, how to test a bamboo in terms of strength, in terms of its smell, and in terms of its color, to understand its age. In this way, we actually shared the knowledge of how to build this thing and how to, nurture or handle bamboo. There are a few more glimpses of the space. This is a 20 feet high structure, an ATM space. I didn't mention his name earlier, but I'm mentioning now. Now, this is Sashi Shekhar. He is a national level sculptor and a relief artist. Relief is basically what you're seeing on screen right now. So any kind of wall mural you are making that is 3-dimensional, it is called as a relief work in art. So he once walked in to the place and he asked us that, can I do this work myself? So he took a 2 months of period and he put all these textures on all the pillars and walls of this complex. And it was the collaboration is offered by him. Here all the projects the whole project was done like a social work basis. So we all have learned from each other, learned each other's culture. It was a really, I'll label this as the most healthy collaboration I have had till now. So after this experience of collaborating with people, I have started seeing collaboration as a tool for young architects. Collaborations will help you in achieving different scales. Then though you look as a team to the viewer, so the client will have more confidence on you. And being a team, you can actually work more in lesser amount of time, which saves a lot of time. Discussions generate, which filter every decision that you take. Though you have a set of content and people you're collaborating with also have, so it helps you with networking as well. Knowledge base and experiences are quite different for you both, and you can share them to expand the bank of knowledge that you people are having. As I said earlier, with a team, with a team, you will be able to always achieve a quantity, and with discussions, you will always be able to achieve quality. So both the things are assured when you are collaborating. So if you have a new idea you want to explore, let's collaborate. Thank you.
Thank you, Swayam, for the wonderful presentation. And I think it was very, it was amazing to see your own projects and the collaborations you have done yourself. So participants can now ask questions. You could either post the questions in the chat box, or if you are comfortable, then you can just unmute yourself and ask your question if that suits you more. So yeah, so if any participant has any question, then please feel free to go ahead with it. Okay. So I think let me start with a question, Swayam. I think this is something that we would probably want to get out of the way right as the discussion starts. So, for
Yeah.
example, in your projects, you have already, like, let's say for that restaurant project, you collaborated with two separate groups of artists, one doing the
Yes.
dragon and one working on the interiors, and otherwise as well, you work with like two separate architecture groups work collaborated as well. So
Yeah.
here I would want to sort of ask you if you could just elaborate on the sort of differences. Like for example, just if I take the artist who is doing the dragon, if what would be the difference between you saying that you and that artist collaborated and saying that you hired that artist to create that dragon?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question, and it's a necessary question. I feel that, when you hire someone, you are actually taking their responsibility, and they're working for you. They're not working with you. Collaboration as a process doesn't work that way. Collaboration as a process is that you are working with them, and they are not working for you. You guys are sharing responsibility. They are no more your responsibility. You both are responsible for the job. Then uh, also financially speaking, things get split rather than I paying them up. So these are a few differences that you will feel. One more thing, that whenever we collaborate, you have, as I said, you have discussions. So with the artist, I'm having really a wide range of discussion. When you hire someone, that person sees you in a position of authority. And in that case, you will see you cannot have that frank a conversation with a person you're working with, if compared to the person you are working for, than compared to your person you're working with. Like, you can be very frank with your colleagues, but you cannot be that frank with your boss, right? This is a simple difference that you will find when you're collaborating with people.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, if there's any other question, then if any participant wants to ask something, we also have with us architect Prakriti Mehta, who is also one of the mentors of our school. So, ma'am, if you would want to give your comments or just have any question that you would want to ask, then kindly do so.
Yeah, thank you, Tushar. Hi, Swayam. Great
Hi, ma'am.
presentation.
Thank you so
Great
very much.
presentation. And I think it brings about, working together in a very different perspective, in a much more, I'd rather feel in a much more equitable manner as against where we have been working with, although we have been working together with consultants, like, for example, and we've been working with artists, we've been working with a lot of experts in the field of
Yeah.
architecture, but
Yes.
perhaps the perspective what you've given today in terms of how do you exactly work with rather than work for a
Yeah.
certain cause, and that perspective really brings about that sense of equity within working in the working section or the work sector in architecture. um, I really want to thank you for bringing about this topic, and
It's my
the sort
pleasure.
of presentation that you made with your own projects, and how you narrated and you sometimes also brought about the artist to be in the forefront for the project, rather than you yourself as the creator of the design or the architecture itself, or being the main person as we usually call the architect as, but how you brought about the artist at the forefront, and you said that it was his idea or his expertise, his specialization, that was primary, and the most important bit in the project that you worked on. So whether be it the Momo Dragon, or the other one where you've shown relief work from the
Yes.
sculptor. I think both of them were great examples of how bringing about change in perspectives as well, as how do you give that credit to the person who's actually bringing about phase two architecture or spaces in general. So it's not just about the architect, or it's not just about the consultant. It's not just about hiring, but it's also about bringing and giving that credit to a specialist of the field. So I think in that sense, it was a great presentation, Swayam. And thank you so much for joining us today. As a mentor of the school, I invite you, and I really want, and I really expect Tushar also to keep in touch with you, maybe for a workshop, and then uh, take
Sure,
this
sure.
effort, or
Sure,
take
anytime.
this effort or take this discussion much more greater into details in terms of maybe like a workshop or a lecture series or a
Yeah.
seminar if you would want to conduct, and how do we take this ahead in the field, and how do we penetrate deeper into the field of architecture through
Yes.
collaboration. Thank you so much,
Yes.
Swayam. Thanks again.
You're
Thank you,
welcome, ma'am.
Tushar.
Thank you.
It's a
Yeah, thank you
pleasure.
so much,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
And I'll definitely try work along with Swayam and try to figure out how, in what way or manner we can take carry it forward and benefit our students. So
Sure.
I think
Thank you.
Rohan has a question. So yeah, Rohan, please feel free to go ahead and ask.
Thank you for the amazing presentation. It was like really amazing to see like such good ideas about collaboration and everything. So
Thank
basically,
you
what I
so
wanted
much.
to ask you is like, what do you think is the potential for like here for young architects who are just starting out, for them to sort of like reach upwards and collaborate with architects who are or designers who are much more experienced uh, than them to sort of like expand their horizons? What do you think, like, how can they go about it, and how can they approach sort of like senior people who can like help them design better and sort of get more advanced in sort of like by collaboration?
Yeah. For the for this, I have also a perspective that always look for people who are reachable. Okay. So you'll always get this reply that I am busy, I am this, I am that. I'll tell you very honestly, no person is this busy that they cannot have a single moment of conversation with you. So if from start itself you're having this issue that they don't have time to speak to you or something, obviously they will not interested to collaborate. That they look for people, like I was saying, that this senior of mine was 10 years older to me, but we collaborated, and his understanding of services is exquisite. My understanding of spaces, or my understanding of the visual forms uh, is something he likes, and that is how we collaborated. Now, willingness to accept each other's ideas and perspectives, something that plays a very vital role. So when you're talking about collaborating with people who are much more experienced than you, it is not just that if you want to collaborate with them, but what do you have to offer? Okay. So once you focus on your own work, then see, when I was doing this more Meteor, I was actually working upon, say, the role store. At that time, I didn't have an architect collaboration, right? And when that time I executed the projects being the architect myself over there. Now that you have your own ground with you, then actually you can start talking to your projects are talking to them now. Okay, you have something to show that you're offering them something. As at first it was mentioned by Tushar, right? That I run a very symbiotic practice. Now it is symbiotic because I tend to collaborate with people who are also willing to collaborate with me. I cannot force anyone to collaborate. I can ask them, yes, and you can actually ask to multiple people. Don't just stop at one, because there are many people in the market who would be having the same kind of experience. Maybe if one is not interested, maybe the other one will be. Just look for those people, I'll say.
Yeah, thank you, Rohan, for the question, and thank you, Swam. So
I
is there
hope,
any
Rohan, the
other part?
questions answered. I hope, Rohan, the questions answered. Or anything else. If you are not clear, you can also ask
Yeah,
again.
you explained it very well. Thank you. I have another question,
Yeah.
and like sort of like because of like your ideas of collaboration and everything, and like made me realize that we sort of architects live in a tiny bubble where like we sort of collaborate with people from generally like sort of around our field. So, and your projects also showed sort of like collaboration with artists and everything. What do you think is
Yes.
scope of collaborating with other fields? Because like tech is getting so big now, and we still live in a bubble where like we focus on design and we hire somebody to do the tech around us and everything. So, what do you think is the scope of making like designs which are more advanced tech wise and collaborating with sort of fields which are outside of our sort of.
Yeah, I see the potential to be huge as your thoughts are. Okay, so if so I'm designing a residence right now. I don't have the proper images of it because it is still in the simulation phase. We are also designing a facade for it, it's a musician's residence. For that, I'll have collaborated with one of the sound engineers and one of acoustic engineers to develop a certain kind of facade that are having, holes at certain regions like a fluted panel. So when air passes through it, in a certain frequency, a sound will be heard, and that will be really comforting. Now, see, the thought process was to get some kind of sound from the facade. Okay. Though the thought went like that, so I had to reach out to musicians or sound engineers, acoustic engineers, right? So it always starts with a thought, and never bound yourself. Like sometimes it happens like that this thing has to be done this way. I don't think design works that way. I feel design is just like, maths. A problem can be solved in so many other ways, and your visions don't need to be limited by things. Understand the parameters with which the project is going to work, and the more the thought process you will be having, the more you will understand whom to collaborate with. It is not that you will be thinking that, I have to collaborate with a musician. No, it should be like, I need to collaborate with that musician. Or maybe I need to collaborate with that dancer. Or I need to collaborate with a theater artist. Now, if you go to camera people, right, when you're designing a space, I'm just saying, have you ever had a conversation with a photographer before designing an auditorium? So generally we don't do that. But I feel it is very important, because to understand the location of lighting, maybe it is better understood by a photographer or a videographer or a cinematographer than the lighting consultant himself. Because the lighting consultant can tell you the exact lux levels and the exact points. But the photographer is the one who will creatively think that, if the light would be arranged in this way, then I can use it in these many ways. And that is when you understand that, yeah, a photographer would be needed here for the discussion. That's how you start collaborating. This is just an example that you can take. Is the
Thank
question?
you. Yeah, thank you. That was amazing. We look forward to seeing your completed project and learning from it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
So thank you, Ron, for both the questions, and thank you, Swayam, for the wonderful answers. Is there any other participant who wants to either add in a comment or just ask any question? Then please feel free to do so. So yes, Swayam, I think Pratibha also wishes you congratulations for a wonderful presentation. She has put that in the chat if you want to see.
Yeah, I just replied.
Okay,
Thank you so
yeah.
Thank you so very
So
much for having me.
yeah, so I don't think there are any other questions from the audience. I think we can bring the webinar to a close with that. So I do thank all the participants as well as our speakers for taking out time today and also for joining the webinar. With this, I would like to bring the webinar to a close. Please have a good day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It was great.